My name is Sana. I'm 18 years old, and this is my story. I grew up in a very small town, and it wasn't very diverse at all. Because of this, I experienced a lot of racism, and I always used to get really angry and I always used to get really upset about this. I always used to tell my teachers, and they always used to shout at them, but nothing would change. It would stay the same. So I remember I had a really naive perspective of high school. I went up thinking, there's not going to be racism there. Everyone's going to be mature enough, and they're not going to care about the colour of my skin. But I had to face that reality because that was not the case. I had my first experience with racism in high school in first year, where I got upset and angry again. And I told my teacher, and again, she just shouted at him, but nothing changed yet again. So I didn't get much bullying around racism in high school until about 5th year after that. I remember walking through the halls, and like a first year boy and his friends came up to me, and they did a phony Indian accent and said some racial slurs. And this time I didn't get angry and upset, because I remember one of my friends, she told me, don't get upset and don't get angry over it, because that's what they want, that's the reaction they want from you. So I didn't give them the satisfaction that time, and instead I still went and told my teacher, because I didn't want him to do that again. I didn't want him to say something racist again. So I told my deputy head teacher, and she asked me, for the first time ever, she asked me, what do I want to do? And I said to her, I want to ask him one question, and that's one question is simply why? Why was he racist to me? So she invited him into the office, and we sat down, and she explained what was going to happen. She said how I'm going to just ask him some questions about it. So I sat down and asked him that question. I asked him why, and he responded with, I don't know. Of course he did, because he did commit it. So I said to him, no, you do know. Why? And he said to make his friends laugh. That's what I suspected, because that's what they did. They laughed when he did it. So I told him how it made me feel. I told him how belittling me because of the colour of my skin is not nice, and how making me feel unequal to him, even though we are equals. So that day, it was so healing for me, because I could understand why all the other kids in my past were racist to me. It wasn't actually for the fact it was my skin colour, it was to make others laugh, and because they thought it was funny. Even though that is not okay, but it helped me to come to terms with that I'm okay, that I'm not something different. And the fact that that teacher actually asked me what I wanted, and I actually got the outcome I finally needed, I will always thank her for that.
Hi, I'm Ben, and I'm 10 years old. Last year, I represented my school meeting the head of education of my local authority. This gave me the opportunity to share my opinion on education and how it can be improved. When my head teacher took me out of class to ask me to attend the meeting, I was quite happy. I felt proud that I had proven to my head teacher that I was worthy of doing this. And I felt like this for a while. A couple of days, I thought, wow, I'm going to a meeting with the head of education. My head teacher met with me and a boy from P6. I was in P5 then. I'm in P6 now. He gave us the school improvement plan and talked us through that. And then he gave us some notes of suggestions of what we should say in the meeting. I was left feeling confused whether I was to share his ideas or my own. So then the day came. As myself, the other boy, and a teacher entered the school where the meeting was being held, I had butterflies, but also felt confident. I felt I had a lot of suggestions on education and how it can be improved. I was also clutching the folder containing the information my head teacher had given me. One of the P7 pupils collected us and took us to an art room where the meeting was happening. There was a square of tables, and at the top was the head of education and 2 other important people. I can't remember who they were. There were name tags around the table of your name and your school. As I looked round, I saw all the other pupils. Some were giving nervous glances to their schoolmates, and others were chatting to people from other schools that they knew. So I didn't feel like a complete outsider, mainly because of the nervous glancing people, but I didn't feel like the most confident there either. During the meeting, I didn't exactly stick to my head teacher's plan. I went off on my own ideas about education and how technology could improve it. I thought the head of education responded positively to what I had to say and took on board my ideas. That made me feel chuffed that I was being listened to. I liked how pupils from all the primary schools in my area had been brought together to discuss education. I thought it was a good idea to get the pupils' thoughts, and it felt pupil-led. But then, after the meeting, I realised how it wasn't as good as I had thought it had been. There were a few things that weren't exactly great. Like how I was supposed to be getting the pupils' opinions, whereas my head teacher pretty much just told me what to say, just making me the messenger. That was partly why I went off talking about all my own ideas, because I should be listened to for me, not just my head teacher being listened to through me. But maybe the next child to go to that meeting might not be so much like me, and would just do as they were told, which isn't right. They should feel free to share their ideas. So that's one thing that needs to change. Another thing is how none of the less confident or less well-behaved people in my school were involved, or even given the chance to share what they thought. And even some of the better behaved and more confident kids didn't get to take part either. So where do all their voices get to be heard? So there's my story. I hope that you agree with me that some things need to change. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Jodie and I'm 15 years old. And here's my story. I haven't always been confident and I haven't had the best school life since going to academy. It all started in first year when I would get really bad. And I went to talk to a teacher about it who I thought would care and who I thought I could share everything with. I told her everything that happened that day, and without me knowing, she pulled the people into the room and she told them what I had told her. The fact that she had told them what I had told her made it much worse for me. I'm not sure why she did it or why she didn't ask me first. Worse for me, it got to the point where I didn't want to go to school because of certain people. In second year, it got worse because social media got more involved. Social media plays a big part in my life because that's where most of the threats happened. Most of the threats would get sent through Snapchat or Facebook. The people who I thought were my friends would send me nasty messages and turned out to be my worst enemies. I lost so many friends because of rumours and lies people would spread about me. At third year is when things got really bad, and this is where I would miss months of school at the time, or I wouldn't go to school, and I'd get myself into trouble for the people I hung about with. Fourth year came around, and a new teacher came, and he helped me lots and made me a part of every decision and made me feel welcome. It made me feel like I had someone who cared about me. This teacher understood everything, and he was the best teacher I ever had. He had a meeting with me and my mum, and we were all agreed that I would stay in school and not drop out early. Just before the summer, he got a new job in a different school, but it's because of him things got better, and I have moved on, and that I am who I am today. I'm telling you this because I want everyone to know that all teachers impact, and it's better if you're included in all decisions.
Hi, my name is Torrin. I'm 19 years old and this is my story. I have borderline personality disorder, and when I very first opened up to my guidance teacher about my mental health and that I was struggling a little bit, I could tell she had not been trained in dealing with mental health, as I could see the panic on her face. She wasn't sure what to do, but she had admitted to me. When I realised I had made her panic, I felt so guilty and bad because I didn't want to upset her. I just wanted her to be there and listen to me. But it turned into a really big deal when it shouldn't have been. In the end, my guidance teacher got my deputy head involved, and they made the decision to take me up to a mental health hospital, where I told them that that wasn't needed at all, as I was safe. Once we got to the hospital, I was assessed by a mental health professional who said I was okay to go home and that they were going to contact my CAMHS worker again. And again, I had already told them that I didn't need to be seen. I just needed her to listen to me and for her to let me know she cared about me. I really liked my guidance teacher. She was amazing, and I am in no way saying she was a bad person. Just on this one occasion, she didn't know what to do because of the lack of training. She was one of the most supportive people I've ever had in my life. School was always a struggle for me because of my mental health. I'd done my whole 6 years but left with barely any qualifications, as I spent 1 month in a mental health hospital, so I wasn't allowed to do my exams. I had been promised that I could redo my 6th year at school, but that was taken away from me. My head teacher changed his mind and told me a week after I had been discharged from hospital that I was better going to college instead. He didn't even tell me himself, he got other teachers to do it. When teachers told the head teacher that I should stay in school, he didn't listen, even though he didn't know me at all and everyone else did. He didn't realise that school was a lifeline to me, and it's the only place I felt I had support and that I felt safe and wanted. When I realised he didn't want me in school, it felt like it killed me inside a little bit. I'm telling you this firstly because mental health is something that isn't spoken about enough and shouldn't be swept under the rug. And also, for a student as close of a teacher, no matter if you're a head teacher, you should listen to the teacher and students' feelings and take them into consideration. It could literally change your life.
Let me tell you a Buddhist story, which tells of a time when all life on earth is in danger. Barbarian powers have arisen. Although they waste their wealth in preparations to annihilate each other, they have much in common: weapons of unfathomable devastation and technologies that lay waste to the world. It is now, when the future of all beings hangs by the frailest of threads, that the kingdom of Shambhala emerges. You cannot go there, for it is not a place. It exists in the hearts and minds of the Shambhala warriors. But you cannot recognize the Shambhala warrior by sight, for there is no uniform or insignia, there are no banners. And there are no barricades from which to threaten the enemy, for the Shambhala warriors have no land of their own. Always they move on the terrain of the barbarians themselves. Now comes the time when great courage is required of the Shambhala warriors, moral and physical courage, for they must go into the very heart of the barbarian power and dismantle the weapons. To remove these weapons, in every sense of the word, they must go into the corridors of power, where the decisions are made. The Shambhala warriors know that they can do this because the weapons are manomaya, mind-made. This is very important to remember because these weapons are made by the human mind, so they can be unmade by the human mind. The Shambhala warriors know that the dangers that threaten life on earth do not come from evil or extraterrestrial powers. They arise from our own choices and relationships. So now the Shambhala warriors must go into training, and they train in the use of 2 weapons. The weapons are compassion and insight. Both are necessary. We need this first one, compassion, because it provides us with the fuel. It moves us out to act on behalf of other beings, but by itself, it can burn us out. So we need the second as well, which is insight into the codependency of all things. It lets us see that the battle is not between good people and bad people, for the line between good and evil runs through every human heart. We realise that we are interconnected, as in a web, and that each act with pure motivation affects the entire web, bringing consequences we cannot measure or even see. But insight alone can seem too cool to keep us going. So we need as well the heat of compassion, our openness to the world's pain. Both weapons or tools are necessary to the Shambhala warrior. So good afternoon. Hello to those of you in the room, to those tuning in via the live stream or even watching it back because Hurricane Ali forced you to leave the premises. In what I'm going to talk about this afternoon, I'm confident many of you will recognise the elements of it and be able to translate it to your own practice and your own contexts. There will be parallels, and I hope that it will spark ideas for you, which is great, but it also means just about everyone in this audience could be up here talking right now on some aspect of this topic. I'm just constantly impressed by the energy, the passion and commitment that I see in learning and education across Scotland. And there are so many brilliant people across sectors who work to raise the bar, who don't get stages like this one, but are tirelessly delivering high quality, impactful and powerful work in community centres, in schools and in learning settings across Scotland. So please accept what I'm offering you this afternoon in the spirit of sharing, saying out loud some of the things that occupy my thoughts and inspire a sense of urgency in me in the work that I do as a Chief Executive. A little bit about Young Scot to start us off. We're the National Youth Information and Citizenship Charity for Scotland, working with young people aged 11 to 26. And our aim is to support young people to make informed decisions and choices as they grow up and face transitions. We're for all young people and have 700,000 members across Scotland, around 74% of the youth population. And we deliver three main services: information, smart tech and co-design. We operate the National Digital Youth Platform for Scotland, Young.Scot, which receives over 250,000 page requests every month on every topic that you can think of, from arts, health, sport, sex, drugs and rock and roll. And we've been specialists in youth information and youth literacy for many years, and I've seen that work evolve from being about giving young people access to information that was hard to find to now helping young people make sense of a tsunami of information. In an age of increasing polarisation, the role of high-quality youth information and youth literacy is crucial. There is no youth participation without youth information. One of our most popular pieces of content is How to Kiss, which gives you both insight you probably didn't need into the minds of young people and useful advice if you're ever feeling in doubt yourself. And we also operate the multi-application Smart Tech Young Scot card. Who has one? Excellent. Who had one? Good. Who has a child or a grandchild with one? Make sure you're not missing out on the Topshop discount. And for those of you who are thinking that it's just that really, really annoying thing that young people keep turning up at the school office about because they keep losing it or they hate their picture, we know there's a bit more to it than that. It's got over 1,600 deals and discounts, ranging from the kind of things that we think teenagers and young people should get anyway, we all need a pizza and movie night, through to things that remove barriers, from money off driving lessons, £1 entry to all National Trust for Scotland sites, or 10% off at the Co-op in Scotmid. A discount, I should say, that this year alone has put £500,000 back into the pockets of young people and their families, mostly in our most disadvantaged communities or areas affected by rural poverty. Our highly successful rewards programme allows young people to collect points for taking part in positive activities, such as volunteering or social action, which they can use to claim opportunities and experiences. And we've got nearly 100,000 young people collecting points every single week and claiming rewards ranging from vlogging from the Golden Circle at the Mobo Awards, spending a day in the kitchen with a Michelin-starred chef, a day on set with Gary Tank Commander, that was popular, and a free 2-hour St Andrew's first aid lesson, which was even more popular. Nearly 40% of those young people who take part in our rewards programme are from the 2 lowest deciles of areas of multiple deprivation. The card's also being used for transport, as the electronic voting mechanism for participatory budgeting, and it is a legal proof of age in Scotland, helping young people get access to the services that they're entitled to. And we're now trialling its use with partners, including schools, youth work teams, third sector and community groups, in delivering further dedicated entitlements for those who face greater inequalities. This is part of our Attainment Challenge National Strategic Partnership, working in North Ayrshire, Renfrewshire and Highland, and focusing on the health and wellbeing aspects of attainment. The aim is to take the potential of the smart technology from theory into practice, scaling and sharing as we go. We are one of the founding members of the European Youth Card Association, which has 39 countries, all offering reciprocal discounts to 7 million cardholders. It means any one of Young Scots' 700,000 members can travel to one of those countries and use their card for cultural activities, travel, shopping and more. And the good news is, it's Brexit proof. We also have a strong focus on how we can empower young people as active citizens through co-design, and we have a dedicated co-design unit, but more of that later. In all of the work that we do as an organisation, we are stubbornly optimistic because, as the Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman says, when action is needed, optimism, even of the mildly delusional variety, is a good thing. Which is also why I'm perfectly happy with the Times Educational Supplement Scotland's recent description of me as an upbeat cheerleader for teenagers. I'll take that. Now, you may, by some minor miracle, have missed the fact that 2018 has been designated as the Year of Young People in Scotland, and it's a remarkable thing in so many ways. The first country in the world to dedicate a whole year to celebrate young people. The whole year was and continues to be co-designed by young people. And Scotland's been running themed years for a while now, starting from the Year of Homecoming in 2009, through to things like culture, nature, history, heritage and archaeology, innovation, architecture and design, and food and drink twice. Well, we are Scottish after all. But in 2014, a few of us approached government to suggest that perhaps our ambitions for the themed years could be different. And in 2015, work began to explore what a Year of Young People might look like. But this wasn't a group of civil servants or civil society in a room. Instead, a group of incredibly diverse children and young people were recruited, supported by Young Scot, Children in Scotland and the Scottish Youth Parliament, and they spent a whole year thinking it through. The tour of Scotland was immense. Workshops and discussions, large and small, held in stadiums and community halls, classrooms and canteens, where the panel of young people asked children, young people and adults from all walks of life and every part of Scotland what they wanted the year to be. There were a lot of balloons, a lot of banqueting Roland Sharpies, and far too many Haribo than is good for a person, quite frankly. But what an amazing thing. Wonderfully rich conversations, ideas and dreams about what a Scotland that cherished and believed in its young people could and should be. From that, the youth panel pulled together the themes for the year: participation, education, health and well-being, equality and discrimination, enterprise and regeneration, and culture, which were agreed by the Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop, along with a key principle that nothing that happened in the year should happen unless it was co-designed with young people. The programme underway, it's got so many highlights, but to give you a flavour, there have been 49 major events supported by Events Scotland through 2 main funding programmes, and a further 62 community events directly managed by young people who were supported through the Create 18 fund, with events and projects taking place across all 32 local authorities, whether that's been Youth Beats in Dumfries, Edinburgh Hogmanay's Torchlight Procession, Scotland's Canals Youth Urban Games, the Edinburgh International Festival opening event, 5 Telegrams, the Glasgow International Comedy Festival, the Blast Festival, the Shetland Big Takeover just last weekend, And there's lots more coming. The Paisley Halloween, the Sunday Mail Young Scot Awards, St Andrew's Night, put it in your diary, Night at the Castle, and the recently announced We Sleep Out in partnership with Social Bite. And talking of which, social media has seen incredible activity. It's estimated that the amount of times the hashtag has been seen on Twitter alone currently stands at over 203 million. Lots of community organisations, third sector partners and schools have made the year their own, running events and programmes around the themes and, crucially, shining a spotlight on the amazing work young people are involved in their own communities. But it's not really been about just events. It never was. The aim was to have a transformational impact on policy making too, and we're actually seeing that happening, with the announcement in the latest Scottish Government programme for government about the adoption of the principles of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child into Scots law, which I hope will happen as soon as possible. The challenge of the year was also to encourage as many organisations and agencies to work with young people for the first time, to use the year as a catalyst, to try something new, to change policy or practice, and to involve young people in co-designing those solutions. And I have to say, again, young people were incredibly thoughtful about that, recognising that for those organisations who've never done it before, that might be properly scary. So they proposed having a core group of young people to act as specialist consultants that those organisations could call on. They're called Communicating, and they are, quite frankly, amazing. They've produced a co-designed blueprint and how-to guides. They've presented, they've worked with organisations ranging from the Institute of Civil Engineers to the Chartered Institute for Public Finance and Accountancy, from Visit Scotland to Standard Life Aberdeen. And in this year of young people, I'm meeting and speaking to lots more people and diverse organisations who are using it as that catalyst for introducing co-design with young people for the first time. And what they're telling me is, it's really hard, that it's difficult. And I'm saying, good, because it should be. If you told me it was easy, I'd be worried, because real change, real reframing and sharing of power in the way that co-design demands is tough. It's not about tweaking or just doing a bit more consultation. So I believe the legacy of the Year of Young People in Scotland and beyond will be significant in so many ways. The UNCRC adoption for sure, but key will be the transformation in how many decision-making spaces will be opened up even further to young people. The genie is out of the bottle. Now, in terms of the key policies in Scotland that relate to young people, ranging from health to education to employability, there are people in this room with detailed knowledge from their daily work. And as for the rest of you, I doubt you'll thank me for giving you a lengthy policy critique. But I do want to highlight a couple of areas that it wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe as game changers for me and my sense of urgency in the work that I do. In the 2016 Health Behaviours in School-Aged Children report, Scotland was measured in a range of indicators alongside 42 other countries, mainly West European, but including Canada. And there were some stark findings about Scotland's comparatively poor performance relating to key wellbeing indicators. It clearly shows that something in particular happens between age 11, when our young people are doing pretty well, and age 15. The figure that shocked me, but also confirmed for me what I hear and see in the work that I do, was that between 2002 and 2014, 15-year-old girls in Scotland showed the steepest decline in mental health of all 42 countries. And here's the gut punch. Only 4.2% of 15-year-old girls in Scotland said they ever felt confident in themselves. Now, shift your attention. There was a special report last November in the Sunday Herald newspaper, which revealed significant numbers of girls in Scotland disclosing that they were subject to sexual harassment daily in school, with many girls telling campaigners that they are often disciplined for overreacting and that teachers dismiss sexual harassment as just a bit of banter. It's the boys mucking around. I'll leave it to you to join any dots you wish to join, but today Girl Guiding Scotland issued their latest survey of girls' attitudes, and it's compelling reading. Alongside intersectional gender equity, which, unless it is addressed, will mean the world will continue to tilt on an unnatural axis, the wider issues of inclusion are also key for me. You'll have guessed, I'm no fan of a deficit model of young people as a problem to be solved. Instead, I believe young people are a force to be unleashed. And those young people with the deepest insight often come from the most challenging circumstances and have so much to offer from their own personal resilience and their compassion for others. Or also, they can be that forgotten group in the middle of the classroom, simply waiting for that opportunity to shine, to be given the space and the encouragement to let loose their talent, an opportunity that too often doesn't come because the spotlight shines elsewhere. That opportunity to shine, to let loose talent, for me, co-design is part of the answer. It offers an incredible space where we can engage young people from all communities, not to harness their energy, but to unleash them. Now, the Young Scot co-design service was born when we realised that we were part of the problem. We'd been working with partners over many years to support consultation with young people, being asked to help go out and about, talk to young people, ask for their opinions, ask for their ideas, feed them back to the organisations, and then nothing. We realised it was about those with power keeping power, not sharing it, and certainly not ceding it. Now, if you want to shrink an iceberg, you need to change the temperature of the water. So we looked for a new model, and we found co-design. The academic description of co-design, because it is a professional practice, is co-design or participatory design is about the meaningful involvement of end users in the design process. This approach goes beyond consultation by building and deepening eco-collaboration between citizens affected by or attempting to resolve a particular challenge. A key tenet of co-design is that users, as experts of their own experience, become central to the design process. So we stole one of Duncan of Jordanstone's finest service design graduates to start us off, and 4 years later, we have a team of 8. Organisations come to us more and more because they understand that in Scotland there is a growing ambition and a growing expectation that we do things differently. Nothing about us without us must be the starting point. So we've created a model based on design thinking which supports young people to be involved much earlier in the decision-making process through a highly participative approach. Ideas jams, youth investigation teams, experience mapping, conversation days. The focus is on using creative tools, so there's lots of making, and also fundamentally that understanding that every young person is an expert of their own experience. So a couple of quick examples. The first is when Police Scotland was first being established in 2013-14. The team setting it up wanted specifically to involve young people in deciding what the values of the new single service should be. That's an incredible question. There was lots of work done over a whole year by 6 teams of young people across the country, and they all had very different experiences of the police in their community and in their lives, positive and negative. The list of recommendations that they produced was a long one, and it remains a highlight of my career when the young people presented them to the then Chief Constable at Tullyallen. One of the key values and ideas the young people had was to be seen as partners in community safety, that community safety mattered as much to them as to everyone else. Remember, young people are far more likely to be victims of crime than perpetrators. So their idea was for young people to work alongside the local police service in making communities safer. The Chief Constable and Cabinet Secretary committed to making it happen on the spot. And then, working with young people, the Police Scotland Youth Volunteers programme was born. There are now over 1,200 Police Scotland Youth Volunteers, aged 13 to 18, in teams in every local authority in Scotland, and they're involved in all kinds of positive activities, such as delivering home safety messages and sheltered housing, to tackling awareness of fraud with their peers. And what's even more impressive is the impact it has had on the stigma often faced by young people, with many adults having their own stereotypes challenged when they witness young people in such a positive and visible role. And secondly, I want to tell you about 5 Rights, a piece of work about young people and digital. But rather than focusing purely on online protection, which is crucial, instead, the young commissioners wanted to look at digital through the lens of rights. Their core question has been, if we care enough about young people's rights to codify them in law, as we do, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, then these are still in effect when they pick up a phone or go online. For over 15 months, the Youth Commissioners explored this question from every angle. They quizzed Google, Twitter and Facebook executives, they held sessions at the Scottish Parliament and the House of Lords, and they went and spoke to coders working for gaming companies, asking them the mind-bending question, do you code for human rights? Their report, presented to government, was powerful, and as one young person summed it up to me, when you were 13, Louise, did you have to sign away your privacy to speak to your friends? Because I do. Did you have to sign up to data agreements before you could play? Because I do. Did you have to agree to legal statements that required a PhD level education to understand in order to take part? Because I do. The group has now been asked to take forward a number of their recommendations, including on how young people can take control of their own data and privacy agreements, how to get tech companies to pledge to respect the UNCRC, and increased awareness of cyber resilience. Now, there are many more examples, and of course the list of great co-design can be extended to learning communities across Scotland, whether that be in a school setting or being used alongside a professional CLD or youth work approach. And specifically in that school setting, there will of course be challenges to overcome in adopting a co-design method, not least of which the impact of the power dynamics in play, particularly in secondary school. But a test, perhaps, may I suggest, might be asking if anyone in your school would describe working with the pupil council as really tough. And if they reply that it isn't, that it's a scoosh, well, let's just say that right there is your opportunity to explore how to give up even more power. As ever, the flip side of challenge is potential, whether that is sharing decision-making about improvement plans with students, such as Lochgelly High School, or involvement in decision-making about transition, currently taking place as part of the new Lochside Academy in Aberdeen, bringing together 4 communities. And of course, if you're a rights-respecting school, then the springboard is already in place to take it to the next level. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to hearing more about the outcome of work currently taking place at Calderglen High School in East Kilbride around co-designing their whole school strategy with students. And it's great that we have examples like these to celebrate, but I am going to suggest that from my experience, they and the others you might know about, they do remain outliers. Shining examples of the art of the possible, but outliers. And we can't just keep praising outliers. At some point, this needs to be embedded into culture, into the way we do things here, at every stage of the learner journey. But those outliers are brilliant because they give us two things. Firstly, they give us evidence, which can help steer us in the right direction. But secondly, they give us courage. And courage creates change. Courage calls to courage. Everywhere goes that great suffragette roar. Now, today I could have talked to you on this stage at this event about the detailed technicalities of co-design, given you a list of 101 steps to follow, told you around and talked about your organisation and its relationships with young people and the structures you put in place to build a culture of inclusion and respect are necessary. And how you do all that is important, of course it is. Structures and systems are a key part of enabling culture, as is leadership. But I'm confident that that knowledge exists in this room. Whether you're a teacher, a youth worker, an FE lecturer, a librarian, a policy maker, an educational psychologist, you wouldn't be where you are now if you didn't. So instead, I want to leave you today thinking about how you personally will work to get to the essence beneath the buzzwords of pupil participation. What is the story that you tell to young people in your words and deeds every day? In what way are you a Shambhala warrior? How will you use your power thoughtfully, wisely, and with compassion, and yes, with love? We must stop being afraid of that word. We know it's the most powerful change agent in the whole world. So I'm asking you to embrace the opportunity that the Year of Young People offers, to think a bit differently when it comes to young people in co-design and where you might make an even deeper impact than you do already, particularly for those who have incredible talent and potential but aren't even making it onto the glass floor, never mind being given the opportunity to add another crack to the glass ceiling. Co-design is a powerful tool in building supportive and creative spaces for these brilliant young Scots, where their skills, expertise and insight can change lives, make communities better and services more effective for everyone. Where they can have agency as citizens of today, not kept at bay as citizens in waiting. We have examples where it's working, but from my experience, I would say that too often, too many adults have been and are being complicit in the stigma and challenge that face our young people. Do you tolerate more than you admit? You know the saying, if you permit it, you promote it. Just think for a minute what our young people are facing right now. However uncomfortable it might be for those of us in this room, our young people are reporting that the school experience is more stressful than ever. Escalating figures abound relating to young people and mental health, with the Scottish Youth Parliament naming it the epidemic of our generation. It is predicted that Gen Z and young adults today will be paid on average £8,000 a year less than the previous generation. Too many young people are leaving school and ended up trapped in insecure, unfulfilling work and the gig economy. Most will be unable to afford their own home unless a family member already has one, but they're expected to pay £40,000 more in rent than their parents by the time they're 30. 1 in 5 living in poverty. They're inheriting a trashed planet. And now, actual Nazis. And what do the adults say? It's those iPhones, isn't it? I hear the stories and experiences of diverse young people every day, and I see their potential diminished every day because of stigma and inequality. And this has happened on our watch. These are our bairns. We must hold to the knowledge that the future is not fixed, it is made. And it can be made inclusively, boldly and compassionately with co-design. One of the most powerful messages that came through from young people across Scotland as part of the co-design of the Year of Young People was a simple one, that they would really love the year to be one where more adults were nice to them and stood up for them, where more adults said how proud they were of our young Scots, that you were kind. Which is why co-design in the Year of Young People matters to me. This is why I want to at least have a go and be able to say, when I look young people in the eye, young people like Jodie and Sana and Ben and Torrin, that I am playing my part, not just in the Year of Young People, but for every year to come. I hope you will join me, whether as cheerleader or warrior, or maybe both. Thank you.